Sean Dyche continues to have Everton's full backing despite their exit from the Carabao Cup on penalties to Southampton last night. There is pressure mounting from the fans on Farhad Moshiri, the owner, to take action, with the club bottom of the table. Two crucial games to come: at Leicester on Saturday, then home to Crystal Palace the week after. Last week we reported that Dyche still has the full backing of the Goodison Park hierarchy, including Moshiri himself. Well, let's get more on this with Tony Scott of the Liverpool Echo. Good afternoon. That could, in theory, be Everton's last cup game at Goodison, I guess. Is there a feeling of anger amongst the fans about how they went out?
A lot of frustration and tension in the air at Goodison Park last night. Mainly frustration, to be honest. I thought Everton did okay, but in the main, if you're looking to, you could have handpicked a better team to play, really. Southampton struggling themselves, made 10 changes, and Everton were fully expected to go through to the next round, which didn't materialise. I think there's a lot of frustration amongst the Everton fan base at the moment with what's getting served up in front of them. And not just the playing side of it, it's a result business, and quite clearly it's not good enough.
Just seen the crucial missed penalty by Ashley Young last night. There was some booing when Dyche brought him on for Beto. Is he losing the fans? Are they looking for opportunities to boo him?
No, I wouldn't say they're looking for opportunities as such. I think they were just basically mainly aiming their frustration on the substitution, really, because you're looking to win a cup tie. Yeah, Beto wasn't having the best of games, but he's our only recognised striker on the pitch at the moment. So when you're taking a centre forward off and you're bringing a number 10 to play in a false 9, so to speak, it didn't kind of make sense. So all of a sudden, Southampton started to press and could have arguably won it themselves. Towards the end of the game, I think they were denied a clear-cut penalty, which Everton got away with. So in the main, I don't think Evertonians could argue really that Southampton went through in the end. So yeah, Evertonians are searching for answers in terms of trying to get the right players on the pitch. They're trying to make sure that Sean Dyche is not obviously picking the ones that Evertonians want, so to speak. So I think it's tough at the moment to be an Evertonian. Not just that with what's getting served up, it's the whole feeling around the club with the potential takeover. The results speak for themselves. They're not playing great at the moment. And in terms of last season as well, if you're playing defensive football, you can sort of get your head around if results are getting put in front of you. Quite clearly, this is our worst run since the 1950s. So when results are bad and the football's bad, obviously all targets are aimed at the manager, because quite clearly it's not good enough.
Yeah, 5 defeats in 6 games, to put figures on it. Is it time to panic? Are the fans losing belief?
I'd say if you're playing the percentage game, Nick, I'd say probably 60-70% would be in favour of finishing with Sean Dyche in terms of his career with Everton. So I'd expect if Everton were not to beat Leicester at the weekend, I think that would be, you'd probably get a 90% swing in that. The majority of Evertonians I speak to aren't happy with the football that's getting served up, but with that last season, you were getting results with it. I think Everton hit a couple of purple patches last season in terms of after the points deduction, then towards the back end of the last season. So easy to forget Everton went 2, 3, 4 months without a single victory last season. So they kept their noses above water, they stayed up, but this season's been absolutely horrendous. They're conceding 34 shots off their own goal, which is the second highest in Europe's top leagues. They haven't won a game in the league. They conceded the most goals, 13 in the top leagues. The bottom of the stats for every single table you want to see. It's not attractive, and when it's not attractive and you're not getting results, there's only one ultimate question, really, isn't there?
Is there any agreement amongst the fans on what the best 11 is, and how far does that agree with what Sean Dyche thinks the best 11 is?
I think it's a good question, because we've signed obviously a lot of players in the summer, the likes of Iliman Ndiaye, Jake O'Brien, Jasper Lindstrom, all came into the fold, and we haven't seen much of them. I think that's been the frustration really with Everton fans, that quite clearly we bought these players in, but we haven't seen enough of them. He took Iliman Ndiaye off, ironically, against Bournemouth when we were 2-0 up, and we all know what happened then. We haven't seen Jake O'Brien much, or Jasper Lindstrom. So there's a little bit of frustration there in terms of the recruitment side of it. If they have been brought in and they're not being played, well, what's the problem? Is it Kevin Thelwell? Is it Sean Dyche? What is the issue there? Whatever the issue is, it's not working, and results speak for themselves.
We mentioned those 2 crucial games against Leicester and Crystal Palace. What feels like the minimum that Dyche needs from those 2 games?
He can't lose any. he can't lose any. I think if he loses against Leicester, I think his days are numbered. I think he's got to take a minimum of 4 points from these two games. Crystal Palace at home and Leicester. You can make excuses for the losses against Tottenham and Brighton. They're decent sides, but when you're playing Crystal Palace at home and Leicester away, who are arguably going to be in and around us in the league, you've got to be taking points. So there's no excuses. They've got players out, yeah, admittedly, but which team hasn't got players injured or ill at the moment? You'll never play your best 11. So, yet while the squad's thin, you're still looking for results, and not many could argue. I don't think Sean Dyche, he's been in the game long enough to suggest that if results aren't going the way, his contract will be terminated. But the question is that you actually terminate it if results do worsen, because there's obviously we're not aware of what's happening at the hierarchy at Everton with the potential takeover of John Textor, or obviously the Freaking Group now are interested back again. So there's a lot of uncertainty around the football club, and a kind of way it probably helps Sean Dyche, because if there was a fully functioning board at the moment making decisions, there's an argument to say he wouldn't have a job.
Are the fans latching on to John Textor despite all the uncertainty, despite the apparent return of Dan Freakin as an interested party? Do the fans feel that getting a Textor deal done and soon is the way forward?
I wouldn't even suggest it's a personal thing with John Textor. It could be anyone, to be honest. We've seen obviously the potential takeover of 777 collapse, and the Freaking Group, they pulled out and now they're back in. Now John Textor's in. I think Evertonians just want clarity. I think they're sick and tired of what's happening with the football club. Parties are interested, then they're pulling out. Loans there and everywhere. They just want some clarity and closure on the whole takeover scenario, whether that be whoever it is. They just want to see some type of winning football, keep our noses above water, stay in the Premier League and head towards our brand new stadium on the Liverpool waterfront. If
the ownership situation remains unresolved, how optimistic or otherwise are you that you won't be writing your reports from a brand new press box watching Championship football next season?
I don't know. It's a tough one. I think last season we were Evertonians were quite lucky the fact that Burnley were in the division and Sheffield United in the division. Now we're all of a sudden we're saying, well, Southampton aren't good enough. Well, Southampton are, because they knocked us out yesterday. Ipswich looked decent. They picked up points. Leicester have got points on the board. And with them games coming up against Leicester and Crystal Palace coming up, Everton cannot afford a single loss, because before you know it, you're looking up. It's as of what's behind you. So yeah, it's quite worrying to a certain extent, but I'm optimistic that Everton will just keep the note. There's enough potential in that team. There's very good players in that team. I'm sure Sean Dyche should be looking at and thinking, I need to do better with this team, whether it regards to performances or results. He's got to be looking at himself and saying, I must do better with this side, because it's not good enough.
Keep smiling, Tony. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Nick. Thank you.